Well, in a year full of unusual weather events, this one ranks right up there. A powerful cyclone is about to slam into one of the most arid deserts in the world. Take a look. Well, this storm is churning towards an al-Qaeda-controlled city in Yemen. This is what it was like when it passed an island along the way. Well, let's bring in Tom Sater for more on this cyclone. Has Yemen seen anything like this before?
Yemen has never had a tropical storm make landfall.
If you go back and look at records, go back 1945, they're not really reliable. Their greatest natural disaster was an earthquake, and that was in 1982, and it took 1,700 lives. Ranking number 2 was a tropical depression. Just a strong little tropical depression that took over 90 lives. This is going to rank easily number 2, if not number 1. They've never seen something equivalent of a hurricane or typhoon make landfall. So unusual. And we still have a well-defined eye, which means it's keeping its power. And as it moves in toward the Gulf of Aden, we've got 400 ships come down through the Red Sea. So again, when it was at its peak, it was equivalent to a Category 4, which ranks Chapala as the second greatest strengthening storm that they've ever seen in the entire Arabian Sea. In those stone clay huts. Now, again, look at the winds. We're up to 240 kilometers per hour. Already tropical storm force winds are affecting this area. It's going to make landfall late Monday night local time, overnight into Tuesday morning. It is going to drop so much rain, it could easily drop 3 or 4 years worth. Even tropical storm force winds will head over toward Djibouti. This is something we have never seen before. Again, they have never had this much rainfall on the coast. For an entire year, Al-Mukalla picks up maybe 50 millimeters. They're going to get a staggering 250, maybe 300. Take a look at this. This is 2 to 3 years of rainfall for this region. Some areas will have 4 years worth. That means massive mudslides, debris flows that will look like rivers. Let me show you a Google. Nothing like this has ever affected the country of Yemen. It may take a couple days to get some information from here, but again, this is a powerful storm we've never seen.
Okay, and again, this unusual weather, we're reporting on it as climate changes. I think, you know, we're going to keep on seeing these phenomena. Thank you. Thank you.
A second unusual storm edging closer to Yemen has now intensified into the equivalent of a Category 2 hurricane. And our meteorologist Derek Van Dam is watching this closely because this is the second time in a week.
Yeah, in just under a week. It was on November 3rd when we were talking about tropical cyclone Chapala that made landfall or swept across the island of Socotra, which is just off the Yemeni coast. And we have now a second cyclone that is only moments away from making landfall on that same island. Let me show you what Chapala did nearly a week ago. Of Socotra, the island, which I'll show you in just one moment, is extremely dry. So any amount of rain will bring flash flood into that area quite easily. They saw over a year's worth of rain in less than 24 hours. Again, this is only 1 week ago, and now we're setting the stage for a second storm. This is Tropical Cyclone Meg. There's the island of Socotra. This belongs to Yemen, by the way. Just to put you into geographical reference, this is the Arabian Sea. There's Somalia and the Horn of Africa to the bottom left-hand corner of your TV screen. This is a NASA satellite view. Zooming into this region, I want you to see the eye wall, which is now just making the eastern tip of this particular island. Roughly 44,000 people call that home. We are going to be thinking about those residents going forward over the next 6 hours, because this looks to make a direct landfall as a strong equivalent Category 2 hurricane.
The second cyclone in just a week has made landfall in Yemen, an incredibly rare thing and a deadly one. Already there are reports of at least one death on the island of Socotra. Karen McGinnis is following the story and joins us now.
This area that is arid, desert, and not prone to tropical cyclones is seeing the second one in a week. It is statistically unfathomable. But as we take a look and just kind of zoom in on this latest, and that is it's already moved right smack across Socotra. That's why they've seen apparently hundreds of homes reportedly have been damaged or destroyed there. But now it's continuing its westward movement as a equivalent to a Category 3 hurricane. So it moves to the Gulf of Aden and then perhaps as a tropical storm considerably. But statistically, that we would see a tropical cyclone in this part of the world and two back-to-back really is staggering. We'll keep you updated.
There's been a terrible accident at one of the most holy sites in the world, a deadly crane collapse in Saudi Arabia at Mecca's Grand Mosque, with more than 100 people killed, many more injured. Images from the scene are still coming in tonight. We get late details from NBC's Keir Simmons.
The terrifying moment caught on cell phone video. A towering construction crane collapses, then panic and calls for God's mercy. It came down on top of one of the most holy places in the Muslim world, Mecca's Grand Mosque, smashing through the ceiling just before evening prayer, causing carnage too gruesome to show in full. At least 107 people were killed, more than 200 injured, Saudi authorities say. Men in bloodied robes, stunned simply to have survived. The mosque is surrounded by giant construction cranes. A powerful storm apparently caused the collapse. Mecca had been hit by high winds and heavy rain. A view from above shows the base of the huge crane toppled. Emergency workers flooding the area, carrying away the dead.
We begin in Saudi Arabia, where an investigation is underway after a crane collapsed on the Grand Mosque in Mecca, killing at least 107 people. More than 200 were injured when the crane came down during a storm around 5:30 p.m. local time on Friday. The tragedy struck just days before the Hajj, which is the annual pilgrimage which draws millions of visitors to the mosque.
But yesterday, Mecca had a dust storm, a sandstorm, rain, and for the last 3 or 4 days there has been inclement weather, and it may have been caused, and even one of the cranes was hit by lightning.
This was a freak isolated thunderstorms with winds reaching up to 80 kilometers per hour. Heavy rain, lightning at the time. They're going to be seeing if this really was just an act of nature that this sort of storm was able to push over this crane. They've had tragedies in the past. There's been stampedes where hundreds of people have died. In one incident, over 1,000 people have died. So that's one of the main concerns, is safety, which is sad that this incident happened right leading up to this pilgrimage. But it also does put pressure on the Saudi government to come up with what caused this accident, and most importantly, to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again, as 2 million people from around the world do descend on this city.
There's been a horrible tragedy in the world's largest religion. A stampede broke out at the religious gathering, killing at least 700 people and injuring hundreds more. That's according to officials in Saudi Arabia. They say it's the worst disaster in decades at the annual Hajj pilgrimage. Witnesses have described a really horrific scene on the ground, piles of bodies lying among the crushed wheelchairs and water bottles. The stampede broke out yesterday outside the holy city of Mecca. A witness said people were climbing over each other just to get a breath of air. Hours after it happened, reporters were finally allowed in and found piles of bodies in the streets.
The first plane carrying the bodies of Iranian pilgrims who died in the Hajj stampede in Saudi Arabia landed in Tehran on Saturday. The disaster 9 days ago increased tensions between the two countries. 464 of the victims were from Iran. Tehran has blamed Saudi mismanagement for the stampede.
The Middle East now, where the chaos in Yemen has suddenly expanded into a dangerous regional war with Iran on one side, Saudi Arabia on the other, and as you might imagine, serious implications all around.
These Saudi fighter jets are on their way to attack rebel positions in Yemen, targeting weapons depots, a command center, and aircraft used by the rebels who have been trying to overthrow the government. The rebels, called Houthis, now control large parts of Yemen. They're backed by Iran. To fight them, Saudi Arabia says it's bombing with 100 jets.
As Saudi bombs drop in Yemen, the human toll is visible everywhere on the streets. Today, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei says the Saudi-led coalition is committing genocide in the war-torn country. It should be prosecuted in international courts.
There's growing tension between Iran and Saudi Arabia after the Yemeni capital Sana'a was again bombarded by Saudi-led forces. Warplanes attacked the airport. The airstrikes were reportedly aimed at stopping an Iranian plane from landing. Iran has cranked up the rhetoric against Saudi Arabia. A senior military commander said the Saudis deserved severe punishment.
The war in Yemen has now become a battle between Iran and Saudi Arabia, two old and well-armed rivals, and neither side appears willing to back down.
The images of destruction stunning the world. ISIS fighters toppling ancient statues, using sledgehammers, drills, and chainsaws to erase all traces of an ancient civilization. And now word, ISIS bulldozers have flattened Iraq's more than 3,000-year-old city of Nimrud.
We were ordered by our prophet to take down false idols and destroy them, says this ISIS member in a video released by the group, which includes music and slow-motion sequences. Then the men go to work, ransacking Mosul's renowned museum and a nearby archaeological site, demolishing irreplaceable statues and works of art. Some crumble with a mere push. Others require more effort. The big ones are defaced with power drills, including this winged bull, a god who protected the Assyrian Empire 2,500 years ago, now powerless against these modern-day vandals.
ISIS is taking a hammer to history, systematically wiping out traces of pre-Islamic culture in areas under its control, destroying artifacts of civilization itself.